Hello, my name is Ben Firestone, and this week for week 10, food presentation number 2, I decided to try and do it over tamales. So starting off with the history and culture of the food, tamales originate from Mesoamerica and are considered to be one of the first dishes to utilize corn within the region. And I have a picture over here which shows the region of Mesoamerica. And it's pretty much the starts at central Mexico and goes into Central America, and that's the region there. The Aztecs are believed to be the first civilization to make tamales, and they kind of created the recipe that is still in some way used today. Hasn't really changed that much. And the original creation of the dish dates back to 8000 BC, so it's extremely old. And being a wrap food, a filling wrapped in a corn husk or a banana leaf traditionally, tamales were really desired because they were very portable. People could bring them places very easily due to the fact that they're wrapped. Um, and people working in fields and in other things brought them as a portable food. And the process of making them is pretty complex and time consuming, and because of this, they were seen as a very specialized and prized food. And they were often associated with religious practices and traditions. So over time, the traditional ingredients and methods that were used to make tamales has changed some, and most notably with the incoming of Spanish colonists within Mexico. That was a notable change that changed the way that the tamales cooked, as well as some of the ingredients that are in them. For example, with Spanish introduction, pots and pans started to be used to cook the tamales, as where before traditional fire and coal embers were used to cook them and steam them. And tamales have been extremely culturally significant within the region due to their involvement in religious practices and their mentioning in religious texts. So they're a pretty sacred food, or they have been a sacred food and still are today. So looking at the nutrient composition of tamales, for one pork tamale, you can expect to consume around 210 calories, 14 grams of total fats, 5 grams saturated fats, around 7 grams of protein, 7 grams of total carbs, around 470 grams or milligrams of sodium, 225 milligrams of cholesterol, and then some trace vitamins and minerals are also present within the dish. And here's kind of a chart that shows the breakdown of that. So they're pretty nutritional. You get some protein from them, but you have to watch out for the fats and the high sodium content. And this kind of leads to relationship to diseases. There's no specific or direct relationship to, consuming tamales and getting a disease or a risk of disease. Of course, improper cooking and food preparation could lead to some foodborne illnesses. But kind of the main relationship to disease comes from their high sodium content and saturated fat content. With high sodium, you have consuming higher amounts of sodium increases risk for heart problems, high blood pressure, that kind of thing. And due to the fact that tamales are traditionally made with lard, which is high in saturated fats, this can also have some health effects for some people down the line. So you just need to watch out for that. Looking at the ingredients of tamales, for pork tamales, pork is used. Traditionally, pork butt or pork shoulder is used to make them. And then this pork is then cooked somehow before being wrapped in the tamale. And traditionally, water is used for that. And that creates kind of a braising liquid or stock that would then be used to mix within the masa or corn, as you can see here. So that's corn mixed with some of the braising liquid and some other things to add some flavor. But yeah, salt is used also. And then a red chili sauce. So this is made separately before the assembly of the tamales, and that has a lot of, highly flavorful ingredients within it. And then the tamale masa, the ground corn, that's here, and then the hojas or corn husks are used to wrap everything and assemble the tamale. Looking at agriculture, the primary agricultural item within them is corn. And in Mexico today, corn is grown, but it also is heavily imported within Mexico, and that's the primary way in which Mexico gets its corn, which was something I found extremely interesting. Mexico, I think the total, looking at cultivation of corn throughout the world, Mexico's contribution only is about 3%, where the United States produces around 33% of the world's corn. So that's pretty interesting to look at. And also there's a difference in what kind of corn is produced. The U.S. produces primarily yellow sweet corn, while Mexico produces primarily white corn, which is less sweet and a little more starchy. So the preparation of the tamales is a complex process, but it can be broken down into multiple steps to make it easier. So in preparing the tamale filling, pork is braised until super tender, until it falls apart, and then this is teared apart into small pieces, and then set aside. And then the red chili sauce can be made, and that is a whole separate process, which I'm not really covering here as much. But then once that sauce is made, the pork is added back to it, and then that's allowed to kind of cook and warm up together until everything is warm. So then once it's time to assemble the tamales themselves, the corn husks would need to be softened in a bowl of warm water. And then once that is done, 2 tablespoons of the masa, or masa paste, the corn paste, is added to one side of the corn husk. That's spread into a thin layer, and then a portion of the pork and the chili sauce is added on top of that. And then the corn husk is folded in a specific way and then wrapped with some kitchen twine to close it up. And then they're eventually steamed over water for around 2.5 hours. And they're steamed until the filling and primarily the masa is cooked through. So I did try tamales this week. I had him at a Mexican restaurant that I went to over the weekend, and I thought it was really delicious. I enjoyed trying it a lot. It was super flavorful. And the filling that I had was pork, and I liked that a lot. And the sauce, the red chili sauce that was on the dish was also really good. So overall, I would highly recommend trying one. If you're at a Mexican restaurant or someone's house where you can try one. And in Mexico today, tamales are eaten primarily as a celebration dish, over the holidays or for some special occasion. But they're also eaten pretty regularly, so it's kind of a mix where the food is, specialized, but also something that people eat commonly. Here's a picture of the tamale I had. It kind of fell apart. But you can see there the masa and then, the red chili sauce on top. It was super good. So overall, just looking culturally at what tamales kind of embody, they seem to be a food that, purely embodies tradition in a lot of ways. The ingredients that are used to make them, along with the processes in which they're made, form a strong and true connection to place. And that's kind of, a thesis to what I thought the food kind of represents. And in a lot of ways, they're a lot more than a traditional food. That's kind of a, generic term to describe something. But, looking at how tamales use corn, which is, primarily found in one place, in one region, you can see how tamales, kind of their evolution and why they developed and that's pretty interesting. All right, well, that concludes the presentation and all the information I gathered. And here's the reference page with all the sources that I used to find everything. Thank you.